Morning, motivators. It's been a 2.5 week hiatus. For those of you follow me a little closer than others, I had a couple rough weeks, and we lost a dog, and it took everything out of me for a little while. And there really is a thing called broken heart syndrome, and I think I got pretty close. I was ugly crying for about 2 days, 3 days, and actually pulled a muscle, pulled the ligaments and whatever it is that holds your rib cage together. So here I am healing some more, and getting back on the horse. We're going to do a leadership jam session, and this one may make some of us ugly cry too, and that's okay. So we're going to talk about service. We're going to talk about sacrifice, and the different aspects of it. Especially in our country's nation, we had the Vietnam War, which a portion of our generation willingly went off and served in a war that may or may not have been popular, even today in your own mind. But that really doesn't matter. I really don't give a shit what your opinion is in politics on this page. What I do care about is honoring those who served. And we're going to do that today. I've got two amazing guests. One of them is my father, John Isbell, who served in Vietnam and in the Army. And we won't hold that against him. And then another Army brother who of his, actually a brother of mine, is Ted Rough Rider, and I'm going to butcher his last name. I forgot to ask him how to pronounce it, but Palmentier, I think, is how we say that. I don't know. He's laughing at me there. I can see him, so I'm sure I jacked that up, but he'll correct me here in a minute. One thing I want to say, and the reason I know Rough is because he's a biker. He's a veteran, and he's a biker, and he's proud of both. And that's where I met him, up in Kenosha, Wisconsin. He rides around up there in southern Wisconsin with his club, a bunch of great veterans that I'm proud to know, the DMZ Motorcycle Club. Love you guys. And I just wanted to send a shout out to them as well, because that's what vets are. But really what we're here to talk about is the Vietnam experience from the veterans' point of view, why they joined or why they served, their experience in Vietnam, and then coming home and the experience of coming home and not being welcomed home for 10, 15, 20 years. So without further ado, let's add them. By the way, Heather's here. Say hello, Heather. Hello. Heather's going to add them both to the feed here. There's Rough. Hey, Rough. I jacked that up. How do I say that last name, man?
If you're going to pronounce it correctly, as in the French way, it would be Palmentier.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna chuckle at that. It's Palmentier.
Okay. Yeah. So I lived in Gaucher once upon a time down in Mississippi, and it's Gautier. So I should have known that. Not that I speak French. I did date a girl who spoke French once.
It was spoken in our house, but I was an incorrigible young man and decided that I didn't need to speak that to get the mashed potatoes given to me.
That's fair. And then there's old John. My pops is actually downstairs in the same home, but we set him up with his own setup there because I go to work every day, and I get exposed. Possibly, I'm in the same room with people who have COVID, so we do our best to keep my dad safe. So I've decided not to have him on the couch with me today. Just in case, because we've had a bit of an uptick in Virginia. So to keep him safe, we keep our distance. We say hi in passing in the house, but he doesn't even sit at the dinner table with us, unfortunately. It's just what COVID has done. So ironically, my dad actually goes by Ted inside the family because his middle name is Ted. Right, Dad?
Yes, indeed.
All right. So everybody in the house calls him Ted, and not here. We call him Papa. But and Rough, your middle name is, what was that again?
Roosevelt.
That's right. So that's why we call you Rough Rider, right?
That's how I got the road handle when I got into the club. The boys were trying to hand out road handles, and when they found out that my name is actually Theodore Roosevelt, it was an automatic fit of being Rough Rider.
I think it fits perfectly. So,
Suits me.
all right. So let's dive into really what the topic is about here. I'm taking a class on the Vietnam War, and I was asked to pick a topic for my paper. You know, every history class you got to write a paper. That's what my major is in, is American history, and this one, because I watched the evolution growing up. I was born in 1974. So growing up, I watched the evolution of Vietnam vets through basically my father's eyes. You know, visiting the traveling wall as a kid, I remember distinctly watching veterans go to the wall, you know, find their friends' names, and then cry at the wall. And I looked at my dad. I remember, this is just one of those childhood memories where I said, "Dad, I feel sorry for those guys." And my dad said, "Don't feel sorry for them. They made it home." Uh, yeah, and that one really stuck with me. Uh, you know, 58,000 plus names are on that wall, and you know, we remember them. I'm wearing my veteran shirt today because November 11th, this coming Wednesday, is Veterans Day, and we're going to remember everyone that's ever served. So, thank you too for both serving, and I love you guys to death. So, let's start with you, Ruff. Where'd you grow up, and how'd you end up in the damn army?
Local. I was born in Minnesota. Parents came to Wisconsin when I was a baby. So grew up here, educated here. Later years of high school, I graduated from high school in '66, and already the Vietnam conflict was escalating. You know, so you basically knew where you were going, and the boys on the block, so to speak, that I hung out with, their parents, their dads were military based also, so it was always a conversation of, join this or join that. And of course, everybody has their own personal opinions. If you the Air Force, Army, Navy, Marines, etc. And uh, one day we got off on an adventure where we were seniors in high school, and we took the day off from school just to jag around, and we went and visited different recruiters. And of course, everybody had something to say of, whatever. And with Vietnam going on, the Air Force was, promising one thing, the Navy was promising another, yak, yak, yak. And everybody joined except for me. They heard places like Spain and Germany and Italy, travel. And I don't know. I mean, I'm going to make a little pun here based on myself. Was, Vietnam was going. I thought that was subtropical. Might be an adventure. It turned out to be quite the adventure.
I bet. Yeah, yeah.
So, long and the short of it, I was left at the last kid on the block, which was okay with me too, because I thought, well, there's a lot of cold beer and a lot of pretty women here now, and I got no competition on either end of it. I'll just wait it out. Didn't take long before the papers came in the mail, and I'm seriously, I'm still okay with that.
Yeah. You told a great story about how you got into the Army. I think it's great I think it'd be great for everybody to hear. So I asked Ruff before in the pre-show, hey, how does the draft work? Because our generation is all volunteer, and so Ruff, can you tell us, you got put in a room, and then what happened?
Well, at age in high school, you had to register for the draft. It was based on the lottery. Okay. And it was just a matter of, what do you say, a gamble, if you will, a crapshoot, if you will. Your numbers are drawn according to what was needed for bodies, to perform tasks in that wonderful world over there. So it was just a wait out period. And again, you got your letter in the mail, greetings, be at such and such a place on such and such a date. And that's how you actually came in. And the induction center here in Milwaukee, where we went to, was a conglomeration of, again, I'm going to use my own, a little bit of humor, a collection of mutts. you saw anybody from uh, the rural poor child, young man, not child, to some of the better dressed boys. Okay, and it created quite the hoopla because you started sorting yourself out of who or what you were at that point in life, and I was always towards the I'm going to say a little street rough, if you will, you know. So if I showed up, requested that you wear something simple that may or may not be returned to your parents' house, uh, jeans, work boots, flannel shirt, and I was ready to rock and roll. Wanted to be introduced to the kid standing next to me. He had dressed Lex on a band line and, a blazer and, the once over from both of us. And it was a little indifferent.
All right, Dad. So, John, how'd you end up in the Army?
Well, I got my notice to report and I started thinking about it. And I ended up being drafted. I took an extra year to go to mechanic school because I always wanted to be a mechanic. And from there, I went to basic training. And then I ended up in Germany for 18 months. And that's when I started realizing that I was in the wrong place. I needed to go to Vietnam because all the other guys were over there. I felt like it was my duty and I volunteered. I had to leave your mom and your sister, but it's just something that I needed to do. So I went.
So, knowing this story, and I've known this story for a long time, Ruff, I went to Afghanistan. Actually, it's been 8 years since I actually deployed to Afghanistan. And so we were we were having a going away party for me at the house, and my dad was there, and he pulled me aside and he said, why did you volunteer to go? Why are you going to Afghanistan? I've got 9 deployments under my belt now. I mean, I think that was my 8th at the time. And, I kind of looked at him like, because I already knew he had volunteered to leave Germany. And I knew if I didn't go, somebody else had to. And I think that that's a common theme amongst many that serve is, if not me, then who? And many of us probably couldn't, at that point, especially once you have served, many of us probably, I know for me, if I had passed on the opportunity to go to Afghanistan when I had the opportunity, that would have been something I probably couldn't have lived with myself with. It really would have bugged me for the rest of my life that if I hadn't gone downrange when I had the opportunity to do it, and sailors don't get to do that often. If I hadn't done it, then it would have eaten at me because somebody else would have had to go in my stead. So I think that that's the piece that many service members share. We share that desire to serve and do what other people are unwilling to do. It's a special breed.
It's a strong bond. I feel the bond between your father and myself. Him joining me being drafted doesn't change the circumstances. I never gave it a second thought about doing my tour of duty. Where some may have thought, well, education, what can I do after the fact? Whatever. Me, it was, I don't know. Again, I'm going to use a little crazy humor here. Take the helmet off, hit the ball, do what you got to do.
Anytime. That's right. I love that. I might steal that one. So both of you get to Vietnam. Ruff, where do you end up?
Actually, as I'm listening to your Pop's talk this morning, our base camp was in Phu Bai also, Camp Eagle. I was attached to the 101st Airborne, first to the 50 Deuce Infantry, and first to the 83rd Artillery. So everything functioned out of there, and then north, the fire support bases for the 1st and 83rd carried them all the way up as far north and west as the Rock Pile, which was a place where the 1st Marine Division was anchored in. The infantry unit scoped that operation, and then as far south as the Ashaw Valley and Southern area.
Okay. So, Dad, you were out of Fubai too?
Yes, I was. I was up there. We supported all the people from the 101st and on up. We ran convoys over the High Van Pass into Da Nang and then points north. I went up to Dong Ha one time. I knew I didn't want to be there, but that was the way it was. But we delivered some stuff up there, and then we come back.
That was a hornet's nest.
Yeah, it was. And I looked at that place and I said, "This really is nothing like home. That's for sure." I really felt sorry for those guys that were stationed up there.
That's probably the anchor point in my mind was you had a lack of anything even basic. You didn't know once you had left the secured area, your water supply, when you're eating, who was going to take care of whatever. I think that those are some of the haunting memories of geez, I'm thirsty, drink out of that creek. The meals definitely were not mom's. You learn some hard lessons when you don't have much to for comfort items, but on the other hand, you raise each other. You find comfort in the simplest things in life.
So do you want to add to that, Dad?
Pardon me?
I'm sorry. Did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I realized how rough it was for the guys like him with the artillery, and I don't know if he moved around a lot, but a lot of the artillery up there had to go to some pretty nasty places, and they saw a lot of action, lost a lot of men. And I really appreciate them. Thank you for serving, Ted.
So, let me. So, sorry guys, you guys are getting me too. So the Chief of Naval Operations has a document. It's called the Design for Maritime Superiority, and in that there are 4 tenets of toughness, integrity, initiative, and toughness, integrity, initiative, and accountability. I knew I could get the 4th one, but when I talk to your generation, the toughness, what I call grit, exists. You guys might be baby boomers, but you were raised by, and you were touched by those who were raised in the Great Depression. So you have an appreciation for things that maybe my generation and the generations after that didn't have. You definitely have accountability by the way you were raised. I grew up knowing what a switch was, but it wasn't used on me all that much. Right.
My ass still hurts.
Right. The belt. The belt. My dad was really good at kicking me. If I was too far away, he'd kick me, and in the behind. Okay, so everybody be careful. I mean, my dad didn't kick me in the face, although I look like it. He didn't kick me in the face. And then initiative is there. I think initiative is a self-driven thing, and I don't know if you can necessarily instill initiative. But the one that I'm getting after, and I think that you two can maybe provide to the folks that are listening or watching right now, you can provide something about integrity. Because what I'm seeing in integrity is a major problem across the board, and it doesn't have to just be with the military, right? Our personal actions that may be very selfish speak very hard, very loudly about an individual's integrity. If you don't do what you're supposed to do when nobody's looking, if you don't pick up the trash on the sidewalk when nobody's looking, if you don't park in between the lines in an actual parking spot, and you decide to park in a place that blocks in 300 other people so they can't get out of the parking lot just because you want to park there and you want to get to work because you're late. It says a lot about integrity, in my personal opinion. Talk to me about the integrity that you had and you learned by serving beside other people in a combat zone, and how you're accountable to other people and doing what's right even when no one's looking. Can you share that lesson that you learned in your own personal service with the group?
Well, I'm going to jump out there and say that you're responsible for your own actions, and especially in the combat area, you can be held accountable for others. For me personally, I believe right from the get-go, it's lead from the front. Automatically, if there's a chore that has to be done, I know that in the military, never raise your hand. One of those deals. Don't volunteer, if you will. Not necessarily saying don't volunteer, but if it means covering your ass or covering somebody else's ass to fill sandbags, grab hold of that shovel and do your best. And that's just the way it is. If you see a fallen brother, or your brother, one of your brothers has got, we'll say, news from home type of attitude, be a bud, give him a hug, trash the paper, carry on, build up his spirits. You can be crying your butt off on the inside. Don't bring it on the outside. Show strength, show integrity, show leadership. Put your best foot forward. Jump out of that box.
Nice. Pops?
I agree with what he says. I just felt that we had integrity, but this government that was running the show didn't have any integrity at all.
Yeah.
And I felt they used us. We were nothing but cannon fodder for them. And it wasn't their kids. Most of their kids never served. But the guys that served, they paid a price. And then they had to go on with their lives. And for a lot of guys, it was very hard with this PTSD. And I really feel for those fellas. And some of them still haven't got over it.
Yeah.
And that's a crying shame, and the government let us down. The Veterans Administration, they didn't take care of the guys that needed the help that they got.
Well,
Yeah, go ahead, Ruff.
I don't think that we had the leadership that was necessary at the time. And I think that we, so to speak, raised each other. So we were responsible for each other's actions. And that played a part of how I feel about true brothers. Right, wrong, or indifferent. We stayed together. We stitched the good times and the bad times, and made it work for the whole. So I don't know, the government. It is what it is at the time frame. I guess looking backward in time, hopefully something was learned. for the
Yeah. Well,
people.
the what Ruff you were talking about sounded a lot to me like the biker code, and it's how we treat each other. With those that you ride with become the same type. It becomes very much the same kind of brotherhood, and I suppose that's why I said so many veterans that I know, especially from that generation, are ride motorcycles and are drawn to that community because it's a very similar brotherhood.
I think what's involved with that, and I agree with what you're saying. I talked to a lot of young vets, your era, and what's currently going on. I got the same puzzle pieces. I think in part, I tell the young ones, you'll never find your foxhole buddy again. The one that thinks directly like you. Your life was supported by that person. Usually a biker organization, a veterans-based organization, biker direction brings you back into that loop a little bit. That's my opinion. That motorcycle kind of sings to you, going back from the time frame of your pops putting you on his bike. He was sharing with you a bond, not only a bond between father and son, I think, but that was his freedom of hitting the wind, and he wanted you to experience that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's in my blood. I think I would, if you cut me open, I'd bleed 50 weight. I don't think it would be red. It would be an interesting golden brown color if you cut me open. But all right, so we've been chatting here for how long? How long we've been running, honey? About 25 minutes. So I want to spend the rest of the time talking about your time after you got home from Vietnam. What your experience was like, how the country evolved, and how your experience of being a Vietnam vet impacted your lives. So, Ruff, I know I keep going back and forth between you and Pop. So let me start with you, Ruff. You come home. I didn't ask you what years you served. What years were you in Vietnam?
68, 69.
Okay, and I know Dad's six. You were there 70, 71?
They won.
Yeah. Okay. So 68, 69 was a bad time in Vietnam, Ruff.
Hot spot.
Yeah. Those are the
Well,
worst.
the coming home process actually turmoil, craziness. I mean, uh, getting your act together prior to leaving base to be put on civilian aircraft to come home. They gave you this little speech that it was your choice as soon as you hit a terminal. Find a little train, change your clothes, put on some civvies on because you're not going to be made welcome. Now, you got a couple of us hard nuts that were like, nah, I'm thinking that I earned this uniform, I earned and I earned and I earned. You'll be peeling this shit off of me, you know, and having some problems. And that's exactly what it was. Fort Lewis, Washington Airport was chaos with protesters and whatever. And of course, you being in a little battle, ragged and whatever, and personality that you had. Uh, Wound up with MPs actually putting a few of us in handcuffs and anchoring us down to a chair to keep the peace, so to speak, because this was getting ugly.
Hmm.
And after the fact of coming home, meaning uh, getting out of the service entirely, uh, it was a personal struggle for me going back into the workforce that didn't have a job for me. Now, by law, your employer was had to hold your job open, but on the other hand, of course, widgets had to be made while you were gone, so they put another midget making widgets, and you were no longer employable, so to speak. So you had to go to me personally. I went through the VA to get the job back, fought, religiously to get it back, and you got some of your older brothers that men that you were working with look at you like, well, Ralphie here, he lost his job and you're back into it, and how long you're going to stay. It was restless, just restless. I went through trying to retrain myself on 2 different apprenticeships, machine shop and electrician, and too much of a restless young man. Just I couldn't settle in. I couldn't find my niche. It took me years to figure it out.
Pops, tell me about your story. I know you you wore your uniform as well, and it wasn't quite as a impactful thing. But tell me about your story from arriving home to finding the job at Ford Motor Company.
Well, I wore my uniform home, but I guess I got lucky because I come in about midnight and there was nobody at the airport to harass me. And your mom and my dad and mom were waiting for me, and I was fortunate, I guess. But as far as readjusting to the job I had, they kept my job for me, but I wasn't satisfied with it. And I went out and put in about 10 applications. And every time I get a job, if somebody else called me and I got more money, I would go to that job. So I was back and forth between jobs a lot until I got to Ford Motor Company.
And Ford, the reason you ended up at Ford is they were hiring vets, right?
Yes, they were. They were hiring all Vietnam vets at the time I got called.
Yeah.
And I respect them for that.
Yeah. Well,
a lot of us guys have an opportunity to do well.
Yeah. And the majority of your friends that I met growing up were vets. And everybody asks me why I have so many Fords in the driveway. Now they know. That's there's a lot of back and forth about Chevy and Ford, and I always tell everybody that Chevy is shove one foot, lay the other, Chevrolet. But I mean, in all seriousness, I was raised on the Fords. I went away from them for a little while, but now I got my 1965 Mustang in the garage, and we'll always have a Ford in the driveway. And a lot of that is because my dad worked for 35 years for the Ford Motor Company, and knowing that they hired all Vietnam vets. And the country was going through a healing phase. We had to figure out, how to reconcile. And Dad, you touched on it, and I'm learning in this class that there were 2 wars. There were 2 wars. The heroes that went over and served selflessly fought their war. They fought for, like Ruff was saying, for their buddies. They fought for each other, and didn't really question. They just had a job to do, and they went over and did it. And they loved their country, and they loved the people they served with. And then you have the government war that was fought. And I'm never going to make an excuse for the government and how poorly it was managed. There was this lose-lose situation with communism, and and I think we're still having that conversation today, and people can't reconcile with it. So I'll stay away from the politics because I really love to focus on the service member and that war that you all fought, the one that, in my opinion, that every veteran that serves, whether it be in Afghanistan or Iraq or, keep going backwards, Kuwait, in Iraq, and even further back into Vietnam and North and South Korea, World War II, World War I, so on and so forth. I'm pretty sure if you took a poll, every single veteran that really serves for the people. Because I know when I get up in the morning and put my uniform on, I put my uniform on for my sailors, the people I serve with. I love them. I absolutely love them. And I know, and I see it in your eyes, both of you, that you love the people that you served with, and that's really what it's about. So I won't belabor this. I just want to get one last word from you and get to the end here. In 1984, the Vietnam War Memorial Wall was dedicated, and that's around that time is kind of when I remember veterans shaking each other's hand and telling each other "Welcome home." What did that mean to you, Dad, when that started happening? Because honestly, probably the first time I ever heard it was from you. What did that mean to you when the country finally started to reconcile and have parades in honor of Vietnam veterans? I remember that happening, and the term, the handshake and the welcome home started happening. What did that mean to you?
Well, it meant a lot because of all the people that we lost over there, all the guys that served. And it was a long time coming before the real people come out and started realizing that we did contribute. We did the best we could, and it just didn't work out. I don't feel we lost the war. I feel the government lost the war. That's the way I feel about it. And I have tremendous respect for guys like Ted because they were the men that really fought the war. And I thank you for it, Ted.
Well, looking backwards on that period of time around my area here, speaking about the wall or pre-architecture construction, there was a lot of media and a lot of street speak. How can you take a monument, build a monument that's designed by potentially an enemy? And I was like, what are you talking about? Well, the designer is female Vietnamese.
Yeah.
And that created its own set of chaos. And you got the next group of, well, I'm not going to, as a taxpayer, help fund a memorial for you losers that lost the war. Now you really stuck a stick up my ass and you're going to get beat with that stick. And that started off a personal struggle for me. And I can openly and honestly say I've lost more than my fair share of jobs because of it, because it goes right back to me coming home to that terminal and being put in handcuffs. You're going to put me in handcuffs and set my ass down and beat your ass for statements like that. And that hurt. And the more angry I got, then I put the switch over and thought, well, maybe I can kill them with kindness and work with them, meaning convince them that this was not taxpayers' money. It was private funded, and probably who else better to design or push on the build would be the country that you were trying to defend. That was payback. That young lady did well to design that the way she did. It came out of the ground and stood in front of you. That wall speaks volumes to anyone that stands in front of it. I'm honored to be part of all of that. To hear your pops say it was men like me, I'm going to have to say thank you. You kept the machinery running. You put forth what we all needed to have done. I'm going to look at you and give you a hug back and forth here, buddy. You did good.
Thank you.
Bottom line, the other gentleman on this screen is a reflection of you. And I honor that. We're all brothers of different generations. We're talking about Vietnam today. But overall, all of us wore the same boots. You look backwards, even to World War One. I look at each generation transfer their boots to the next generation, and we're all walking in what we want. And what we want is we want freedom. We want the world to be free. We, the three of us on this screen right now, work to have that. And brothers, We are brothers.
Thank you. I
Love you, Ruff. All right. Well, not really much more I can say. I do want to say one thing to the both of you before I do my closing statements. And welcome home.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you. And to you, brother, you're still walking in those boots.
Yep. We're going to keep walking too.
All right. Thanks, guys. Wow. That was an amazing 40 minutes or so talking to two heroes. You know, the Vietnam War, in my personal opinion, isn't a black mark on our history. It shows how amazing the people in this country are, you know, and how sometimes our government doesn't make the right decisions and accountability needs to be had. And I will say this, drove down the street this week after the election and I didn't see any protesters anymore. Think about it. I love everybody. Get out, motivate.